what is it doing to our body to have somebody like this in our lives?
We are energy beings. So you need to understand that you're transmuting darkness with a capital D. That's what your body does as an empath. It doesn't mean you have to earn love. It just means you have to be the human air purifier that you are. You're irritating because your energy is asking them to wake up, and that's not where they are, but you agreed to come. Nothing is wrong with you. You don't need to work on it. You have to simply declare, you bring in your I am presence.
Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever struggled with people who drain you, then do we have the Dodging Energy Vampires show for you. Today I'll be talking with Dr. CHRISTIANE Northrup, a New York Times best-selling author, visionary pioneer in the field of women's medicine, and the author of a liberating new book, Dodging Energy Vampires. And that's just what I want to talk with her about today, about evading relationships that drain you and restoring your health and your power. That plus we'll talk about Jerry Maguire, Private Ryan, Tibetan monks and diabetes, violet flames and magic gardens, Alexi Kenny and Piazzolla, and what in the world 3 and microcore paper tape and sleep has to do with... And Chris, I actually do sleep that way myself. So welcome back to the show, Chris. Are you ready to shine?
I am completely ready to shine, and look at us. We are aglow in brilliant spring yellow.
I love it. I love it. So before we get to the paper tape, that'll be much later. How did you come to start thinking about energy vampires?
This is right out of my own life. This is like drawn, when the movie says based on real events.
Yep.
I could have called the book Dodging Energy Vampires an autobiography. And I knew from my work in medicine that in psychiatry, there's a group of people called cluster Bs. Believe me, I don't know what A and C are, but I know what cluster Bs are. In the DSM-5, the manual or psychiatric conditions, there's this thing called cluster Bs. And I'd certainly had my run-ins with these people in my medical practice, but I also realized that in my own personal life, I had one after the other people to whom I gave the benefit of the doubt and who I overgave to, and they undergave to me. So that if I had a relationship where I was giving 90% and they were occasionally throwing me a crumb, I would think that I had a balanced relationship. And all that had to do with was my childhood, like all of us empaths, where we're born into families where we think that in order to be liked by them, like Matt Kahn says, you have to be like them. And I was never like them. So by the age of about 3 to 4, I had made a decision that something was wrong with me. So I had to work for love, to earn it, because I wasn't like them. I'm still not like them. I'm like me. And then it's a long road back to myself. And I'm hoping that through this book, will help people get out of relationships where they're not honored before 24, 25, 30 years has gone on, where you keep trying to get the love you never got as a kid.
I'm nodding my head. There have been several relationships. The longest was my first long-term relationship, 6.5 years. And I don't want to pick on her, but she was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder.
Well, who else would go for that? It would be a good guy. I mean,
I can save her, Chris. I can save her.
No. There are one of my callers, her mother, they just brought her mother up from Florida. And she said, well, my mother's very difficult. She's been married 7 times. You good guys think that you can save these women, and then you become this desiccated husk by the side of the road. It takes you a while to even recognize a good woman, because that wonderful hero instinct is, my God, I can save this woman. And you can't.
and in the process, we lose ourselves and we forget our self-worth, saying, well, if they're not seeing us worthy, because we're trying everything we can do to please, everything we can do to get the love that we need from them, because we're not worthy to them, we're not worthy. So why would we even leave this relationship Because who else is going to want this poor slove of an unworthy soul?
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. So here's what these people know, and I think took me a long while. You're not chosen, you're targeted. They see you coming and they know that you're going to give them narcissistic supply until you wake up, and then they're with someone else in 15 minutes. And you say to yourself despairingly, oh my God, I mean, did they ever love me? And the answer is no. No. But okay, let me just be clear, because it's this kind of show. I believe that on a spiritual level, they are our biggest teachers.
Absolutely.
They're angels in disguise. I dedicated in the acknowledgments of the book, that was my very first line, to all the energy vampires in my life. Thank you. Without you, I would never be who I am today. So let me be clear on that. I'm not judging them, but I am saying this. There's a difference between being judgmental and having good judgment. And we empaths, we healers, need to learn the lessons of taking care of and loving ourselves. So if we were talking about anemia as a doctor, then to treat anemia, you have to do two things. You got to have more iron to make more hemoglobin, and you have to stop the bleeding. So if you're in relationship with an energy vampire, you got to stop the bleeding, or you're never going to get your blood volume, your energy level up to where it should be. And here's the awful thing. On some level, they know this. And this is the work of Dr. George Simon. And he said, you need to think of it as this. They are fighting for control. They're trying to get you in the defensive position by making you feel bad about yourself. We empaths are often born with an inferior ego. We keep our ego alive by looking for things to improve about ourselves. And so someone can string us along forever with that. Well, I would be fine if you would just lose 10 pounds. Or in one of my patients who had breast implants, she was told by her boyfriend, I could get it up if your boobs were bigger. And so she got these double D implants and then fell into this enormous depression. Of course, because her body knew, hey, this dog won't hunt. This is not going to work. And so that's what this book is really about. It's to take a group of people, the empaths, the people who don't know where they end and another person begins, teach them that they are light workers, that all they have to do is be the air purifier that they are. They don't need to be a human lint roller to take up all the crap from everybody. It's our job to finally realize that we count, and it's our energy that is setting up the planet for the next stage, for ascension. We've been put down. We've been the ones, especially the old souls, pushed off the mountain, burned at the stake, hanged, buried alive, because we always had this light, this understanding of energy. And so if we look globally at energy vampires, that's the military-industrial complex, which Stephen Greer has talked so eloquently about in his book, Unacknowledged. So Unacknowledged is about the sort of global vampires. Dodging energy vampires is more about the personal people in your life, like your mother, your husband, your sister, maybe your child, or your boss. But the dynamic is the same, which is that we stop feeding them with our fear, with our anger, with our life energy. You just stop paying attention to them.
So how do we take an assessment? Because if you're in a relationship, whatever that relationship is, with an energy vampire, although you're exhausted, you're withdrawn, you think it's you, because inherently you think it's you, you may not think they're an energy vampire. And if you're like me, I do love everybody equally. I want to keep my distance from some people, but I love everybody.
Yes, and this is the truth. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about a certain group of empaths who are particularly vulnerable, and I would say you're in that group. Okay, we're the ones with super traits, and this is based on the work of Sandra Brown and research at Purdue University. She was doing psychiatric groups for narcissists. And then she began to realize that and they didn't get better. They just did not get better. She began to run groups for women who were in relationship with narcissists. And she said what she'd been taught was that these women were codependent, they were rescue addicts, they had learned helplessness. And she said, but when I was not in the public welfare system and in the private sector, I found that there was a whole group of women with super traits of loyalty, resourcefulness, optimism, can do. These were not learned helplessness people. These were CEOs. These were federal judges. These were doctors. These were people who ran their own companies. They were successful in every other area of their life except one, and that would be in the intimate relationship area. That's because we see the red flags in someone, but here's the deal. It goes back to you. I love everybody. We see the red flags, but we think, because we're so good at uplifting, we think we can save them. We see their potential, and we see the potential that might not be developed for 500 lifetimes. But you still see it because you do see the God in everyone. And this is not a bad thing. But our lesson is that you have to understand that if you're giving more than they're giving, then they're just using you as their source. Your source is God or your higher self. My source is God or my higher self. Their source is you. They are the mistletoe on an oak tree, which will eventually kill the tree. They are a parasite. And we have to learn our biggest lesson, which is love yourself first. Mm-hmm. And we often don't feel worthy of that. We think something's wrong with us, so we have to overgive to compensate for that little kid who was completely misunderstood in a family, very often with at least one energy vampire. So that's our job.
Do we all have, or is it common at least to have, like maybe you can share about your childhood and like what happened at 12 because you had to be somebody else?
Yes. Yeah. So here's my childhood. So, I'm born into a family where my mother is a Sagittarius, mm-hmm. and her idea of fun is 5 sports a day, tennis, golf, mountain climbing. Every vacation was a 40-pound backpack, climbing up a mountain, being cold and wet. She would enter me in ski races because she really felt that every one of us needed to be an Olympic level athlete. And my father, I remember this, he said, we noticed in you early on a tendency to want to sit by the fire and read books. Okay, so so therefore, we had to do everything in our power to make sure that who you really were never got, it just never got nurtured. So I have a sister who was on the U.S. Olympic ski team, mm-hmm. brothers who were ski racers, all of that. And so now this is not their fault. I just got the idea that something was wrong with me because I didn't want to be cold and wet. And then also on the vacations, where you do the 5,000-foot mountain, and they'd say, it's worth it. When you get to the top, the view is worth it. And every time I get to the top, I'd go, this isn't worth it. I could watch this on the National Geographic Channel and sit by the fire and read books. So it took me years and years to understand that nothing was ever wrong with me. So I married my mother, and, it's just what happens as a soul grows. But then what did I do? I had a series of business relationships with energy vampires. I had my own version of Harvey Weinstein. Never had sex with him, but this was a business associate who was desperately trying to get me into bed with him. And I thought I needed this kind of person to develop this aspect of my business. I had no idea, none. So when the Harvey Weinstein thing came out, I was turning backflips. Finally, in our culture, a group of women were believed, because in my practice in the 80s, women would sit down and they would start to cry, and I'd hear their histories. 1 in 3 women is raped or abused in her lifetime. We don't even know the numbers with men because, men are really taught not to talk about this stuff. And my colleagues said to me, oh, we only see normal women. You see all the nuts. So my whole life, I'm also interested in crystals, tarot cards, angels, past lives, Edgar Cayce, Do you think that that's acceptable talk at Dartmouth Medical School? Not really. So you're constantly hiding who you really are because you just think it's not acceptable. Plus, if you've been burned at the stake for several lifetimes, you learn to keep your mouth shut. There we are.
And on that note, I've got to go there. Mark Willin and ancestors and secondary PTSD.
You got it. You got it. That we get in our DNA, we get the trauma of the generations before us. And that is our job, to alchemy, human alchemy, to transmute that darkness into joy. Everyone gets their own amount. So everyone has to do this work. That's why they're listening to your show. That's why I wrote the book. It was my karmic job. And this book is very short. And I feel like it's as upstream as I can possibly go with my work as a doctor, because here's the deal. Many people in relationship with energy vampires develop so-called autoimmune disease. So in Sandra Brown's workshops, her retreats, 75% of the women have autoimmune disorders: lupus, arthritis, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, sarcoidosis, all of those things. Now, Anthony William, the medical medium, who's my friend, points out that the body does not make antibodies against itself, that medicine doesn't understand this. But what's happening is cellular inflammation. That's the root cause of cancer, heart disease, all chronic disease. Cellular inflammation. It's really your body saying, this situation you're in here, this is not working. So imagine you're eating perfectly. You're doing green juice. You're doing yoga. You're doing everything. And you're still not healing. And so what I've found is in every case, the woman's living with an energy vampire who's draining her. Yeah.
How does the woman or guy, because it can be guys at about 25%, I guess, if we're looking at the people with super traits.
Right.
How do we start to take an assessment and start to notice this?
Okay, the first thing you notice is, how does your body feel around this person? So one of the first things that you can do is you'll find out that around this person, you're suddenly sleepy. You think you need to take a nap. It's the weirdest experience. Now, you probably will not notice this, so I'm telling you this. You walk into a room, you're with someone, and you suddenly think, oh my God, I'm going to have to take a nap. And you don't associate it with the fact that someone's literally draining your energy. And you also don't get that you're unconscious about it, because that probably happened throughout your entire childhood. So you pay attention to your body. You pay attention to your gut. Let me ask you this. At this point in your life, if you ran into a woman like your first relationship, do you now have radar where you'd go, oh yeah, I recognize that?
I would hope I would run like hell. And my guess is yes. But now I coach a lot of people, and I love everybody I coach. But I can, and I can put some force field up.
Yeah.
And this is a very professional relationship. But I do know when most of the time, I'm up afterwards because I'm plugged in, I'm tapped into source. And other times, I am just exhausted.
That's it. And you're a professional, so you already know what you have to do going into it. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've puffed up your aura, you've put the golden orb around you, you've got mirrors pointing outward, and all that stuff. And still, one of my friends, Bob Palumbo, is a clinical psychologist who's worked for years with men who've been sexually abused by priests. And he said to me, you need to understand that with a really skilled psychopath, especially if they're charismatic and good looking, he said, I can still be sucked in. So it's important for all of us to realize we can be sucked in, but you need to understand that if they always look good, and here's what you usually find, the energy vampire takes care of themselves. They always look good. They always make sure that they have vacation. In fact, they're usually only happy on vacation when someone else is paying. They're really good about that. And then they puff up and they can be charismatic and fun. But notice what happens when your energy is no longer on them. They often become a deflated balloon. I had that happen with a friend, and she was here in my house, and no one was paying attention to her. She had nothing to say. She was a deflated balloon. It's the weirdest thing. So notice that. So notice, can this person, the energy vampire, be alone? Or are they always, they're usually surrounded by drama, 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 drama. So one that was in my life, she used to say to me, "You won't believe what happened when you were away," and then we're starting with the drama. And when I finally got her out of my life, for 2 solid years, I would notice that there was no drama. Because here's the thing, for an empath, if you have that degree of drama, something's really going on. There's a world war, there's something else. But no, these people create drama because there's a term I want everyone to know: narcissistic supply. That is the energy source that vampires live on. Narcissistic supply is money, attention, looking good is huge. That is like a huge thing for them. Looking good, fame. Anyone who says, "I want to be rich and famous," it's like, that's not a worthy goal. That's a terrible goal because there's nothing there. I had my own little amount of fame. It's not like a movie star, but I've been enough around real celebrities to know that's not worth anything. What's worth something is who's there when you're in trouble in the middle of the night. Who's there in your home? Are you surrounded by friends who don't care what you look like? So you got to notice about narcissistic supply. I just got an email from a woman who said, "I'm married to an energy vampire, so I've done that exercise you said, which is gray rock. You become a gray rock. So you're not giving off any energy." And she said, "I feel when I do it like I'm being a but it's really working." It's like they stop draining you and they go elsewhere.
I love it. So we talked about it briefly with Anthony William, and he is awesome. And I did my green celery smoothie or green celery juice this morning,
Right.
AKA the medical medium. What is it doing to our body to have somebody like this in our lives?
Okay. We are energy beings. And I think everyone knows that by now, but you can see it with Kirlian photography and even dowsing rods. We have an energy field that goes out from us around about 8 feet. However, if someone's making you feel bad about yourself, if they're criticizing you, let me give you an example. So I was working with a body worker, and he was trying to make me become more physical. Like, he said, there's these worlds, there's the mental, there's the emotional. So he wanted me to be more athletic, more physical. And so he did it by telling me, you're a weakling, you're this, you're that, I looked at him, and I'm going to give him another name. I said, Larry, you're really going to have to do better than that to motivate me, because I grew up in a family where I was constantly shamed for my lack of sports skills, for my lack of, let's go out and run. So I said, I am so immune to that. So I found that funny. But as long as we still have a place where they can hook us, then what happens is that becomes a leak in your energy field. Now, if we were to measure it, and I'm sure we're going to find the way to do this by measuring levels of ATP created in the mitochondria, then we would see that literally the emotional energy of giving from your heart to this person to make them feel better. Because here's the other thing about an empath. I have a healer friend, and she said to me, as a little kid, I felt everybody's pain. And I would say, could you please feel better so I don't have to be miserable? So you need to understand that you're transforming, you're transmuting darkness with a capital D. That's what your body does as an empath. Here's the misunderstanding. It doesn't mean you have to earn love. It just means you have to be the human air purifier that you are. If you think it means I have to do more, be more, give more, then you're taking your life energy, which is all we have, and you're giving it away, so it's not even available to recreate your bone marrow, to create red blood cells and the immune system. It's not available to do autophagy, which is to recycle the old cells. It's just not available. And this is why you can see somebody who's in relationship with an energy vampire. And I see this at Walmart all the time. So here's how it usually looks. You got a guy who looks like $1 million. It could be the opposite, a woman who looks like $1 million. And then the schlubby one is pushing the cart with the kids. They look completely downtrodden. The other one looks like $1 million. She or he, they are literally letting the other person take their life energy. You know, there's a scene in The Color Purple. So if this generation has not yet seen The Color Purple, it's worth seeing, because there's a scene where I think it's Whoopi Goldberg's character, who's been sexually abused for years, and then she was kept away from her sister, who she loved. She finally is loved by a woman called Shug, and she realizes that this abuser has kept Shug's letters from her sister's letters, for years. And she gets this wonderful, healing, righteous indignation. Not a place to live, but a very important, like this. She rises up at the dinner table. I wanted to have like a continual loop of this playing in my office way back in the day. And she says to him, played by Danny Glover, "You touch me again, and your life will rot." And he never touches her again, because that's how it is. When you truly stand up in your power. Same thing happened with Ike and Tina Turner. Tina Turner left Ike with one dime. And she was doing, at that point, Buddhist meditation. And she just looked at him out in the parking lot. "Okay, hit me. Go ahead, hit me." Because they are cowards inside. There's no real courage inside. They're just using other people.
Om Mani Padme Hum.
Yeah, that's the one.
So on that note, a perfect segue. Tell us about Tibetan monks and diabetes.
This is really interesting, and I learned this from Dr. Mario Martinez, who's worked with many people to help them with diabetes. Okay, this is like really important for your crowd, and mine too. All right, we've all been taught we are all one. In their hearts, everyone is love. Only hurt people hurt people. We all believe this. We are the bodhisattvas. We're the compassionate people. And therefore, the Tibetan monks believe in loving kindness. Mm-hmm. You know, the inner smile, your loving kindness to your kidneys, loving kindness to your lungs, loving kindness. Well, the Chinese came in and pretty much destroyed the Tibetan culture. I was working with a Tibetan monk in Chile this past year, mm-hmm. and his father spent 7 months escaping from the Chinese, and that's why Yeshe became a monk. And he told me the whole story. It's horrendous. But if you're a monk, you're taught loving kindness is the response. The problem with that is when you're going right to loving kindness without first feeling the anger, and I'm not saying you have to stay in the anger, but you sure have to feel it as jet fuel. If you don't feel it and you go right into loving kindness, this produces a huge amount of beta endorphin, a natural morphine-like substance in the body. It kind of anesthetizes you. Sugar does the same thing, by the way. So it numbs you to what you know and what you feel. And because of all that beta endorphin going around, it has an effect to raise blood sugar. And sugar is an opiate. It decreases pain. And so therefore, as Dr. Martinez said, more Tibetan monks have diabetes than should have it, because it's not like they're eating 1 million carbs. They eat some carbs, but not that much. And so he said he's taken a couple people of this nature, and he said, all you have to do is feel the anger. Just feel the anger. Then you can go into loving kindness, no problem.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
I have an exercise that I like to give all my coaching clients called Better Out Than In. I say this is the opposite of any positive psychology you have ever been taught. I want you to barf out on a page, many pages, as many as you'd like, all the anger, all the hatred, all the guilt, all the anxiety, all of the stuff that's made you a shaken up Coke bottle inside. It's not what you think about, you bring about. If you keep it inside, it's going to come out one way or the other.
You know, I had the most interesting experience before I wrote Mother-Daughter Wisdom. I had to get it all down on a page, just everything. And then I nearly went blind in my left eye. I had contact lens in there, but then I got this bizarre disease called infectious crystalline keratopathy. The eyes are in the liver meridian. That's anger. And I was at Mass Eye and Ear, like going every day for a week, and nearly went blind in my left eye from all of that rage that I had felt bottled up in childhood, until I finally remembered vitamin C, SEE, and I began taking massive doses. Now, this was when all of the very special antibiotics that they were giving me for eye drops at Mass Eye and Ear, the corneal specialist of the world, because I had this big corneal ulcer, going blind, and having to wake up every hour on the hour to put the drops in my eyes, until I finally realized this is not sustainable. It was getting worse. And then I remembered vitamin C, began taking massive doses. That cleared it up. So I never had any problem since. But the inciting thing was writing down everything, but it still got stuck in the liver meridian.
One more step, which you probably do now, which is then I ask them to pull it out of their notepad or journal and tear it up or shred it, because the subconscious doesn't know the difference between the word.
That's exactly it. And yeah, and at that time I didn't have that one. Now I would have. Now I would have done a ritual. I would either have burned it, or I would have gone to the river and drowned it, or whatever I had to do. Because you're absolutely right. Yeah.
So awesome. So let's go. Not awesome then. Awesome now with what you're sharing.
Awesome now. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yes.
So let's talk about putting yourself first, and let's talk about starting to shift this and heal yourself. I guess first we're looking at what the relationship is, and now we need to look at ourselves.
Yes, that's right. So the first thing you do is you begin to honor yourself as a worthy being who is a light worker, who's a being of light. And it doesn't matter that the mainstream culture has never honored that, never seen that. And luckily, because of shows like yours, or, my Hay House radio show, for the first time in written human history, by the way, that isn't the first time in history, it's the first time in written human history, so we're talking 5,000 to 10,000 years, we are finding each other. I just recently read from another empath. She said 10% of us are here as way showers into the ascension, into the new earth. 90% are followers. Those of us who have a lot of light, now this is important for people to hear, our light is irritating to the 90%. We're frickin' irritating to them. She said it's like going into a bathroom at night when you've been asleep and you turn on the light and it's like, ah! So that's important to know. Nothing is wrong with you, but if you are not part of the 10% of light workers, you're irritating because your energy is asking them to wake up, and that's not where they are, but you agreed to come and be part of the wake up crew. I mean, did anyone like it when your mother said, rise and shine, time to get up for school, when you were 12 and needed more sleep? No, nobody likes that. So that's important. You need to honor who you are. You need to stop feeding your negative ego. You're right just the way you are. You do affirmations. You take care of your body, not to lose weight or to be more whatever, but because this is precious. I have exercises in the book for, the magic garden exercise, where you go in and you meet your little unhealed child. Our job is to parent the little wounded kid inside with our divine self that isn't even in the human body. I mean, it's like beyond the veil. It's the part of us that's whole and wonderful, but nobody can parent that little kid except you. And we wait our whole life for the mommy or daddy facsimile to come and rescue us. We're the ones we've been waiting for. So that's incredibly important. But You need to stop. Remember what I said, you're not going to get your blood volume back up until you stop the bleeding. So that means if you have someone who's always asking you to go outside of what you want to be doing to help them, you need to learn how to say no. So I want to give you some ways to say no, because just saying no is going to be too hard at first. So the first one is, let me get back to you. So I want everyone to practice that. You're asked, maybe do a scenario in your head, your best friend calls and you don't quite know she's an energy vampire, but as I've been talking, her name keeps coming up in your head, or it's your husband or your wife, and they want you to do something for them, which you've always felt great about doing because you thought, oh, I'll do that for them. First of all, because you have super traits of resourcefulness. So, it doesn't feel like it's taken anything away from you. And you love being of service, right? You love all your clients. But let's say that you have a yoga retreat planned and you're really looking forward to it. And by the way, when you start to do this, you will be tested. I can guarantee you'll be tested. You will want to go on the yoga retreat or whatever it is. And your mother, your father, your brother, your husband, your sister, your brother, they will call you the day you're supposed to leave and try to suck you back in. So you say, let me think about it. I'll get back to you. That's one. That's what we would call elementary school. High school is, I simply can't. I simply can't. And then postgraduate level, college is, it's not possible. You remove yourself totally. You just say, it's not possible. And there's such power in that. It's just not possible. And so that's what you have to learn to do. So that's how you stop the bleeding. Mm-hmm. You stop the bleeding. You become the gray rock. Now, if you can, you do no contact. So let's say that you finally divorced one of these, or you broke up with them. No contact. What you'll find throughout your life is as long as you have a receptor site for them, they will never go away. It's the weirdest thing. I mean, if people will come back into your life, especially with Mercury retrogrades, and they'll try to suck you back in. And so you just notice them, and, it is simply not possible. No contact. You just don't answer. You don't answer. Oh, you're going to notice the first thing you'll do is you'll feel guilty. So when you feel guilty, or you feel bad about yourself or bitchy or whatever, then you celebrate that. I learned this from Matt Kahn. You give yourself an Olympic level trophy for your guilt. You say, nobody has ever nailed guilt the way I am nailing it. No one has ever felt as bad about myself as I am feeling. I am nailing it. This is cause for celebration. What happens is shame and guilt, the shadow that have wanted to be felt for generally decades, cannot exist in laughter and sunlight, just like no vampire can exist in sunlight and laughter. They just don't, they go away. So as you lighten up and you celebrate yourself for not loving yourself, oh my God, I'm a piece of cellulite. You go, oh, I'm nailing it, man. No woman has ever hated herself quite as well as I'm doing it. And when you do that, you start to laugh.
Woohoo!
Yes, yes.
So let's talk about a couple interesting scenarios. First off, a parent.
Yes. Okay. This is really important. Okay, so I want to just give you a phrase. Narcissists don't age well, which means if you don't have the boundaries, it will get worse. Because the body, I want everyone to know, the body exists for you to truly get in alignment with who you are, your I am presence. The body won't let you get away with anything less. And that's, frankly, that's what all of medicine is. If you're having a symptom, it's because a part of you has not let in the I am presence. So what's going to happen with your energy vampires is that as long as you keep ignoring them and keep giving to them and hoping that it'll go away, it'll get worse and worse and worse. So, and this is another thing. If it's a parent, chances are very good. You, the empath, the black sheep of the family, will see the pattern. Your siblings will not. They will accuse you of being judgmental. You're being unkind to mom or dad. You're the only one seeing it clearly, but they'll all make you feel bad about yourself. So you say your truth and you hold your boundaries. So here's an example. A parent comes up to live with a brother or sister because the parent is aging and blah, 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 blah. And doesn't, never read Goddesses Never Age, so they don't know that that's all optional. And so what you do in this case, you set your boundary and you say to your siblings, here's what I can do. I can visit once a week, no more. If this is the decision you want to make, then you're the one who's going to have to take care of this. Then you have to, inside, you say to yourself, what can I live with? So I have a friend whose father is an energy vampire. She said, I call him once a week. The phone conversation usually goes south after 10 minutes. That, by the way, the 10 minutes is how many milligrams of love the guy can take before he goes negative. So just know the time where the visit's really good and where that little kid inside you goes, oh, this time it's going to be different because I really love this person. And it's never different. The only time it's different, by the way, everyone, is in the movies, which is why we keep going, because the energy vampire always wakes up and has contrition and realizes how much they've hurt you. It doesn't happen in real life. Please keep that in mind. So then you know how many milligrams of love the person can take. So you literally have to curate the visits. Like, how long before my parent takes it south, starts criticizing my hair, telling me, haven't I gained weight, making me feel bad about myself. When you've reached that point, you take your leave. Then, and this is Cheryl Richardson's work in her book about extreme self-care, she has a whole chapter called Let Me Disappoint You. Like, nobody who ever gets healthy by always pleasing everyone. Let me disappoint you. So your mother or father starts to take it south. You go, sorry, gotta leave. So remember that a crotchety, demanding old person was always a crotchety, demanding young person. But youth is a great defense. And the older they get, the worse it gets. And so I believe, I've actually come to the belief that what we call caregiver burnout for parents is only because of one of the parents you can't do right by them. We just had a woman die here in town. She had 9 kids. They adored her. They visited her she was only demented for like the past year. She was like 99. They'd go into her assisted living, bake pies with her. They'd give them to all of the other people there. Her kids adored her, caring for her. They would fight with each other to be with her because she was so great. So the burnout comes when you're over giving to someone who's an abyss inside. So when it's a parent, you got to do enough so that you will not feel bad about yourself when they finally go. Now, for some, okay, we have this myth. We have a myth in our society, like on Mother's Day, you'll miss her when she's gone. But it's your mother, you'll miss her when she's gone. I would like to go public and say, no, you won't. You will be relieved. No, you won't. So remember, an energy vampire is 1 in 5 people. So everyone listening has one of these, an aunt, an uncle, somebody. You will not miss them when they're gone. That's a trap to make you feel bad and suck you in.
So the person who is a caretaker of an older parent, and they are getting drained beyond drained beyond drained, there is a point at which they need to pull the plug and go, wait a second.
Yes.
Off to someplace else. For me to sustain my life, this has to be done.
Because we have studies that show that when someone's caring for someone like for years, the caregiver generally dies sooner than the person they're taking care of. Wow. Yeah. So, it's like, save yourself first, folks.
So let's go from there to another, what could be a challenging situation. And you had to navigate this road. I have to learn about this road too. Social media. I guess we all do, actually.
Okay. Social media is really interesting because for a very long time when we started, I would, of course, have trolls. I'd have people criticizing my work. I was doing a Facebook Live with the Hay House Facebook page, and someone from my own state said, oh, we asked her to speak at a thing years ago. She charged way too much. I have no use for a woman this greedy. So that's from my home state, and she's right on the Facebook Live. Luckily, I was an administrator on that chat, so I just deleted the comment. I have gotten to the point now where if someone is really nasty, and Brene Brown is wonderful about this, she said, look, if you want to have a civil discussion, I'm there for you. So now we have many civil discussions on my Facebook page. Yeah. But for years, I would try to give the benefit of the doubt to someone who was really nasty. No longer. My fuse for this is so short. I delete and I ban user. And I do it when I'm talking about thorny first chakra subjects. Mm-hmm. So that is vaccines, circumcision. They're two of the subjects that I have opinions on, and I want a civil discussion about it. And I used to have a lot of trolls. Now it's interesting. Things have changed. Why? Because I eliminated my receptor sites for trolls. But if one comes in, I sometimes will just delete the comment. If there's one more, I ban user. This is my page. I don't let people bring their dogs to my yard and leave the poop all over the yard. I don't do it. This is my dance space. It is my sacred space. It is not the place. I'm not the press. I'm not a town meeting. I don't need to hear every opinion, especially when you're doing a character assassination of me. The minute someone says, no, these are buzzwords. Okay, ready? I'm so disappointed in you. I thought that you, of all people. So the shaming, when they start with the shaming, boom, ban user. I've got no tolerance for it anymore.
I'm with you. In fact, I'm so, I don't know if sensitive is the right word. I like where I go with it. If I catch the words just saying at the end.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. Just saying. Yeah, you are. Bam, ban user. Because here's the thing. Great light attracts darkness. It's kind of that simple. It just does. So we're going to get it. Mm-hmm. We are going to get it. But we don't have to sit there and imbibe it on our cell phones or on our Facebook page or any of that. Now, it's important, very important, not to become so isolated that when someone has constructive criticism, you don't even see it. I mean, I look at some of our brightest lights, Elvis Presley, Michael Jackson. These people were surrounded by people who were protecting them, and then they died because they didn't have anyone saying, hey, wake up here. I read an article in Rolling Stone about Bruce Springsteen, who I adore, and he said he still goes to the little places in New Jersey and tries out new music. And he said, and if they tell me it sucks, I know I have to work on it more. I have remained teachable. So we have to remain teachable, but we don't have to put up with I am so disappointed in you, or where did you get your degree? Or I thought you were better than this. Nope, not doing it.
So, to me, it's a game of tennis. I guess it's a game of tennis with dynamite. But if you even throw back the ball gently to play the game.
No, you're right. Now, at first, if you try to have a civil discourse, it gets worse every time. I've never once seen one of these people say, oh, you're right. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But many times, if it's starting to trend, and then you come in and you say something that's uplifting, oftentimes I'll have a whole thread where the thread gets really, really nice, where everyone starts to support each other. And that's happened over the past couple years in a beautiful way. And then people can find each other. And, and they can private message each other. And then, so then you get groups, little pods of uplifters all over the planet as a result of maybe meeting on your Facebook page or mine. Yeah.
Woohoo!
Yeah, right.
So turning that corner, how do we begin to find or crank up that self-worth and that self-love?
Okay. Just by, first of all, you don't need to work on it, right? You don't need to work on it. You have to simply declare, you bring in your I am presence. The whole book was, what are the lessons of Chiron in Pisces? Pisces is the world's server, it's Christ consciousness, it's Mother Teresa, it's compassion, it's the 12th house of the zodiac. The lower shadow of Pisces is martyrdom and self-sacrifice. I will die for your sins. For you to be happy, you have to, for someone else to be happy, you've got to suffer. And many of us are feeling like, a friend of mine texted me and he goes, my clothes aren't right anymore. Now, he didn't mean that he'd gained weight. It meant that his identity, his I am, had changed from his martyrdom, self-sacrifice during the Pisces thing, when he did a huge amount of healing. So that's how you're going to be now. You're a new wardrobe, new you, new everything. It's just perfect.
My wife has had challenges with mold toxicity and with humidity. And so we have to get her back to a drier climate.
Yes, where there's lots of sun. And Colorado's a very high vibration place. Wonderful.
Woohoo!
Yeah, love that.
What else do we need to know about not working on, but bringing forth the light?
Okay, here's what I want to teach everybody now. I want to teach you how to connect with divine love. Divine love is the most powerful healing modality on planet Earth. And it stabilized on the planet in 2012, the end of the Mayan calendar, because that prediction with every indigenous culture was this: if you make it to December 21st, 2012, your ascension into the new age is assured. Now, is that going to be tomorrow? No. But what it means is we are finally waking up. We are not going to have another world war. So do not give your fear and energy to that reality. Divine love is something each of us can use in our own life. My friend Robert Fritchie, who runs the World Service Institute, used to travel with Marcel Vogel, who held 100 patents in crystal technology for IBM, and they used to go around teaching divine love. Marcel was sometimes attacked by psychic vampires who didn't want people to know this information. Bob, my friend Bob, who's an electrical engineer and has worked for aerospace, can see energy, so he would pick out the darkness, sending stuff to Marcel on stage, who'd start coughing and all that. So what he did, he said, the most powerful thing you can do with an energy vampire, you literally just send them divine love. Because remember, true divine love is toxic to a toxic person. They will leave. So you just say, I send divine love. Now, it's not personal love. This is personal love. I want this for that person more than they want it for themselves. That's what drains you. That's what keeps the bleeding going. Divine love will balance everything. So the way you bring it into your body is we do a petition. So with your feet flat on the floor, without the arms crossed or the feet crossed, you put your hands together, which brings together the right and left hemisphere. Then we're going to do the petition and just repeat it after me. So we close our eyes. With our spirits and the help of the loving angels of the light, I focus divine love throughout my system. I acknowledge and this is where you can put in anything you want. I acknowledge my pain. I acknowledge my whatever. I acknowledge the energy vampires draining my energy. And I now ask that this pattern be completely extinguished within me. I ask for this with divine love, according to the Creator's will. So that's your higher power. Then you take a deep breath in through your nose. We hold it, and then we pulse it out through our nose, and then you unclasp your hands. And then you just sit, and you pay attention to your thymus, because divine love comes in through the thymus gland, which is deep to the sternum, to the breastbone. And then we just sit there and breathe. Now, oftentimes you'll get a pain or you'll cough or whatever, and then to clear it, you just pulse your breath. And then every day you can just say, I accept divine love. And you'll get better and better and better at feeling this working within the crystalline grid, the energetic grid of your own body, because your fascia, your teeth, your bones are all crystals, and they are upgraded with this energy of divine love. You can heal anything this way. And what's the most important thing? You have to believe that it's possible, because belief is a living reality. You've all heard about premature cognitive commitment to the belief that you are stuck or you are too old or whatever. That belief is a standing wave in your body. So when you, and Deepak Chopra years ago talked about, you take schools of fish and you put a glass in between two aquariums, two schools of fish, and each school of fish believes that they're trapped because they've made a premature cognitive commitment in their body mind that they can't swim into the territory of the other. You remove the barrier, and only one or two pioneer fish will swim into the territory of the other. The others have made a premature cognitive commitment that they are trapped. Now, divine love can work to clear the premature cognitive commitments that you are trapped.
Thank you. So I want to do some quick wrap-up questions, but before that, I can't resist, since I was joking about the paper tape, which is actually pretty serious in the beginning. I love it.
It is.
But then you mentioned breathing in through the nose. Tell me about nasal breathing.
Okay. Life-changing. So when I read Body, Mind, and Sport by John Douillard, who's in Boulder, Colorado, and is a friend of mine, I adore him.
He's awesome.
He literally taught mountain climbers how to go up Everest with no oxygen by breathing through their nose. Why? Breathing through your nose engages your parasympathetic rest and restore nervous system, and there are turbinates, those are bones, in your nose that send the air down to the lower lobes of your lungs. And the lower lobes of your lungs, when expanded, engage the vagus nerve, the primary nerve of the parasympathetic nervous system. So therefore, when you breathe through your nose, even when exercising, you will be creating a rest and restore parasympathetic-sympathetic balance, which creates beat-to-beat good, cardiac coherence, which actually increases a hormone called DHEA, the mother hormone that balances all the others. So you have cardiac coherence. You end your workout in a state that is not exhausted, and then you also decrease free radical damage. When you're doing one of those like high intensity workouts and you're breathing through your mouth, which is a stress response, and you feel like throwing up afterward, you've created so much free radical damage that's why endurance athletes die so young. So you need to breathe through your nose to prevent asthma, to prevent COPD, snoring, all these things. Mouth breathing is a stress response. No baby ever breathes through their mouth unless they're really stressed. So what you can do at night, and try this, everybody, you get 3M micropore paper tape, very cheap. You tape your mouth shut. Now, I know when I'm saying this, some of you are already in a panic. So just put it on there while you're going about your final preparations to get into bed for like 15 minutes before, and then you'll forget about it. As you sleep, what will happen is you literally are going to be in a rest and restore thing the whole night. This transformed not only my sleep, I wake up now finally rested in the morning because I'm not creating a stress response by breathing through my mouth. And by the way, you will not stop breathing. If you have a stuffy nose, it'll clear. It's fascinating. I've had so many patients and friends literally recover from asthma by learning nose breathing. So, and the other thing I want to say is all of these things that I've written about that you talk about actually are how you restore your system, even if you're still living with an energy vampire. So Karen Brody, who has a wonderful yoga nidra practice called Daring to Rest, daringtorest.com, she points out that the vast majority of the women who do her 40-day rest challenge, many of them file for divorce when they're finished.
Wow.
Yeah. So it really helps.
So you can start to isolate in your life. What are the stressful events? We think we know them. We don't know them as well as we think we do. Even if
No,
we're
we don't.
meditators, we don't have a clue.
That's right.
Then we can link into our body better, become more aware. And then again, we're going back to the breath or getting away from those energy vampires. We would actually see them on a pie chart when the energy vampire is in our life.
I love it. That's perfect. Thank you for that.
You're most welcome. So real quickly, if I took off my coaching hat, put it on you, Chris, what would one homework assignment be that you would give people today?
Learn about this dynamic, the empath vampire dynamic, because as soon as we stop our part in this dance, the whole world gets brighter for us. You'll suddenly find your tribe. You will lighten up. You will lose weight. You will get younger. You will begin to live heaven on earth instead of being a snack for vampires.
Woohoo!
Right.
What do, Jessica always wants me to ask, what do parents need to know about vampires for their kids?
They need to, okay, so here's where you tend to find it. School systems, middle school, the bullies, the mean girls. You just tell your kids about the dynamic if it is one of these people. But, and this is the work of Dr. Shefali, who I adore. She said that many kids have to go through, this is soul making. We kind of have to go through experiences with these characters to put bark on the tree, as it were. When you start out as a little kid, you're like a little green shoot and someone can crush you with their heel. But at this point with me, I'm a redwood. Like, bring it on, man, because there's nothing you can say to me at this point. And so kids have to learn that. I think the main thing for a parent, just be the model. It's not even anything you have to say. Just be it. Just be it. Yeah.
Woohoo!
Right.
On that note, what personally brings you the greatest happiness, or what I call the woohoo factor?
Any time that I remember who I really am and I bring in my I am presence and I literally go in and take care of my divine child. And so there's, when I do that recently, I'm getting that I am presence a lot when I play my harp because I've learned how to play. Okay,
that's I am instrument.
Oh, it is?
Well,
I'll bet it is.
That is the instrument of the angels.
Yeah. I literally have it here on my shoulder, and then there's the whole sounding board. And I was classically trained, and I learned all this stuff in the Cleveland Institute of Music, but that was always stressful. If I had the watch on, it would have been total stress. It's like now it's learn some folk songs, diddle around, no music, just me and the music. It is amazing. I'm just loving going, because I wanted to play the harp at the age of 3. And then I did all this classical stuff, and then I left it for 20 years, and now I'm back. But I'm back the way it should have been when I started, and never was. Yeah.
Woohoo! On that note, where can people go to find out more? I cannot recommend this book enough, and it is such an incredible. Don't worry, we'll put up a graphic that's not see-through, although it is kind of cool like that.
It's kind of cool. I like it.
But this book is brilliant, and there's so much we didn't cover on healing yourself, on finding the love again, on cranking up that light. Where can people go to find this? I'll call it brilliant book, and to find out more.
Oh, thank you. Well, you can order it anywhere books are sold, but if you go to drnorthrup.com, I've got some good blogs on that, and Hay House Radio, I've done a bunch of shows. We've done podcasts, so you can find all that either on drnorthrup.com, my Facebook page, Instagram, those places.
Fantastic. Yeah. And if you didn't catch drnorthrup.com, come on over to inspirenationshow.com, and we'll get you over to drnorthrup.com.
Thank you.
Any last words you want to share with us today, Chris?
The last words that I would share is, this is the time to do this work. I'm so excited about how this has landed. It's taken me decades to come up with this. It's not going to take people decades anymore. The light is now shining so bright. But I would say, do not allow yourself to get caught up in the mainstream media. The mainstream media is all owned by the global vampires. That's just the truth. But don't give them your attention. You can live heaven on earth now. And that's what I want us all to do. That in and of itself decreases the chances for war. It decreases global poverty. You living heaven on earth as an enlightened empath, full of light, one of us fully engaged with our light, is more powerful than 100,000 followers who are just sort of looking around waiting for someone to tell them what to do. We're really powerful, and we need to remember that.
And we're contagious.
Yes, that's very good. Yes, it's true.
Woohoo! Thank you so much, Chris. This has been, I don't know how somebody could bring so much light to the vampires, but you have done it, Chris.
Why, thank you. Thank you so much.
So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, get dodging energy vampires, and begin standing in the light again today, and shine bright. Woohoo! Wow, wow, wow. What another amazing, sacred, special interview. On that note, if you want to dive into something that's sacred and special, then you want to dive into awe, the automatic writing experience. It's a process where you learn how to channel, to go quiet, put pen to paper, and literally get answers from the other side of the veil. Now you can get our video-based program where you can begin learning automatic writing today, along with live classes at automaticwriting.com. On that note, if you're loving the show, then that means you are a mystic. So join Michael's School of Mystics. We meet 4 Wednesdays a month. Simply go to inspirenationuniversity.com and you can find Michael's School of Mystics. On that note, come join us every Monday night. We have YouTube live events. And if you want even more than that, click the join link. Come join the inner circle with me. You get an uplifting dose of goodness in the inner circle with all of the behind the scenes footage and videos that I make specifically for you. We're a podcast too. Find us on iTunes, Spotify, every single place you can get a podcast. You can find the Inspire Nation Show. Click the subscribe button and the bell icon, which will notify you with upcoming shows, YouTube live premieres, and here's the link to the next amazing video. Love you guys so, so much. Big thumbs up. Leave your comments if you like this. Shine bright. Woohoo! Love you guys.